the or, hein heina oisius. The kalim that conceal the or are the Hebrew letters. So now imagine the following. You have this big, big or in your mind. You want to share this unbelievably deep idea with the person that you love. So you have this feeling, you have this experience, you have this or inside of you. How do you convey that or? How do you allow that or not to just burn the other person up? But how do you convey that or, that light, to somebody in a way that they can relate to? You take this or and you're mitzamtzim it, you actually put it into letters. The letter is a way to give vessels to the experience that you want to share. That's why all of the relationships in a civilized world come through conversation. It comes through, I have this feeling, I want to share something with you, so I need to put it into words. I remember as a kid, I think they said that, like, you know, the principal said, like, I was like a troubled child. That's like another word for I made a lot of mischief. Mischief, like, I just, you know, would ditch school mostly. But the way that I described it, I felt like I had a lot of energy. I had all the Rosh Tevises and ADD and ADHD, all the Rosh, like whatever. And I felt, though, that I had a lot of energy. And the energy was not able to be, this is the word that kept going to my mind, channeled. Which, if we were to give a language of chassidus to that would be called being mitzamtzim, that or. And I remember that my mother would always say, why don't you write down your thoughts? Why don't you take this or, take this energy that you have and actually write down your thoughts? Because I felt like And as soon as I could write down my thoughts in letters, that was a way of giving structure to this or, and it felt so good to do that. It was less scattered of a human being. I started to notice myself becoming more grounded, talking things out, and even writing things out. How many people here have journaled? And it's so therapeutic to journal something, to actually write your thoughts down. It's so therapeutic. It can be cathartic. It's like, wow. And to the person that's never done it, they're like, why do I need to do that? It's all up in here. Like, I know my thoughts. Like, why do I have to write them down? No, that's a process of giving kalim to the or. And you're starting to give space where you can understand what's happening. Even though the or is a very high thing. But you want to give kalim to the or. And even though, yes, when you write something down or when you speak something out, you lower the concept, because it's no longer just this light inside of you, and it covers something, but it allows that the light should be relatable in a certain way, according to that person's level. So the Rebbe finishes the parak. Shisharshan, and what are the source of the letters? The Hebrew letters are a way of giving structure to the light. I mean, the letters are specific. An aleph is not a beis, and a beis is not an aleph. That's why it's an interesting thing. If somebody wants to come and they say, oh, who said the Torah is divine? I think the written Torah is divine, but I reject the oral tradition. And then they'll quote you something, you know, in Ezekiel. And the response is, how do you know how to read the written Torah? What do you mean? I have a Bible right here in my hand. I'm reading it. Well, how do you know how to read it? Oh, I went to, you know, a rabbinic seminary. They taught me over there how to read it. Who taught him? Who taught him? Who taught her? Him? Whatever. Who taught them all the way back? Oh, there's an oral tradition? Means it doesn't say in the text how to read it.
There's also no nakuda.
And there's no vowelizations. And furthermore, how do you know that Bereshis is Bereshis? Maybe it's Bu-ri-shu-a-to. How do you know that's Bereshis? Maybe it's Vereshis. And maybe it's not Vereshis. Maybe it's Lech lecha me'artzecha. No, it's Bereshis then. How do you know that a beis is a beis? Maybe a beis is a lamed. What do you mean a beis? How do you know it's a beis? The Torah doesn't say what letters are what. Oh, your rabbi told you? Oh, who told him? Oh, there's an oral tradition. You cannot have a written Torah without the oral tradition. Very, very important. So these Hebrew letters are a way of being mitzamtzem. They're giving structure to the or. And the shayrish is in the following letters, i.e., there are 5 end letters. What are the letters that are always, they can only be an end letter? The letter is called menatzpach, or mantzapach, which you have a regular mem, and then you have a shlos mem, an end mem. Sofit, that's right. That would be the Hebrew way to say it. I'm saying the Yiddish way. An end mem. And then you have a nun, or what, Yehuda? Endenun, or a lange nun. Not a nun sofit, or a lange nun. And then you have a tzadi, or ende tzadi, lange tzadi. Then you have a pei, or you have a lange pei, an ende pei. And then a chof, or a lange chof. Okay? Those letters always come at the end, which means that the end signifies this concept is ending, and now we're going to begin a new concept, which is an idea of kalim, of creating structure. And when something comes into those particular Hebrew letters, it takes on qualities. The light, remember we said that Hashem is trying to give us this light, this or, but He can't just give it to us in a totally revealed way, because then we would just be inside the nuclear reactor. So He limits it and gives it in certain ways. That's called the Hebrew letters. But certain Hebrew letters create certain relationships, create certain energies in the world. Like the word mayim. Mayim is a mem, a yud, and a mem. So what does mayim imply? Mayim implies things that are wet. Mayim implies things that fall to the lowest place. Mayim is not just physical water. It's the qualities of mayim. Or eish. Eish means fire. Things that are jumping. Things that are warm. Things that can destroy. So eish is taking this light and expressing Hashem in the world through eish. Not just a physical fire, but everything that fire represents. And when I say the word eish, it's different than the word mayim. And therefore, even though it's all Hashem's or coming into the world, I'm expressing that or in different ways. Those are called kalim. And those kalim are called chamisha gevuros, are called the 5 types of holding back the light, which kalim do. And the last part of the parak, we're not going to go into too much depth, as you're going to see. It's just pure Kabbalah. And therefore you have to go ask a Mekubal to explain it to you. Umafridoi sahevel v'hakol behe moitzoi sapeh. Where does voice come from? Where do words come from? The words start in your bellows, in your deep within, as words, or do the words start as an undifferentiated voice, a kol, and then as they come out of your mouth, they're divided into 5 ways of delineating speech? The answer is, the voice is just pure. It's a kol pashut, like a shofar. Only when the voice, the kol, comes up towards the 5 utterances of speech is the voice, which is undifferentiated, divided into letters. What are the 5 parts of speech that chop up voice?
Mouth, tongue,
excellent,
teeth, throat, and chest.
And the cheich, which is the palate.
Oh, what is it? Palate.
The teeth, the lips, the tongue, the palate, and the throat. And that's why there's certain letters that are throat letters. And there's certain letters that are tongue letters. There's certain letters that are teeth letters. Like the letters of Acha, an Aleph, a Ches, a Hey, and a Ayin, come from the throat. Aleph, it's coming from there. Where there's other letters, they're called Bumaf, which comes from the Sfasayim, from the lips. Other letters are teeth. You need to use T. You need to use the teeth to get them out. There's other letters which are like from deep within, like we said, the gutturals, which is the Acha, but the Aleph is also from the throat, but it's less throaty, whereas the Ayin is heavy on the throat.
So cool.
You could say Ayin without your teeth. Ayin. But there's certain letters that T, it necessitates different parts of the mouth. So these 5 parts of your mouth are chopping up sound into the 22 Hebrew letters. So here's the cool thing. It all starts from an undifferentiated kol, just breath. But inside, meaning, where do the letters come from? The teeth? The throat? Is that where they come from? Or did they come from the kol? Did they come from the undifferentiated kol? Just the voice, just the sound. They come from the sound, but then what they do is they chop up the sound to allow lettering to come out, to express. Which means everything was there in the original voice. It just needed to go through kalim. It needed to go through means of chopping up to allow that intelligible kalim and thoughts could come out. Even though you might say it's so limiting. We should just hang out like this. That's just so much more expansive. In other words, we should sit in a room together and blow shofars at each other. Now, anybody who understands the secret language of the shofar is like, let's go. Because it's all there in the shofar. It's all there. Why in Rosh Hashanah do we blow the shofar? Because we're saying like, you got to go all the way down to a kol pashut, where it doesn't even come into letters yet. Because the neshama is more connected to the kol. The letters is a much later part in the journey. When you want to appeal to Hashem on Rosh Hashanah, you're just coming from just, the cry of the soul before it even comes into letters. And therefore, yes, maybe people that are really close to each other, they could just hang out and blow shofars all day. Itchimar last week in his house on Yud Zayin, Mar Cheshvan, which is the day that the Mabul began, had mikubalim from all over the world come to his home. And they did all sorts of special Kabbalistic things to help the situation in the world, which is lo kol kach pashut, to bring peace to the world. And they did all sorts of tefillahs and pidyon nefesh, and they did the tefillah Rashash with 160 silver coins, and they blew shofars together and chatzotzros. I wish I was there. But I feel that when I was receiving a transmission about it, that I was receiving at least a little bit of it, a little bit of the ore of it. And the Rebbe finishes the parak. And the Chamisha Gevurus Mechalkois Mafridus Hahevel Ve'akol Behei Moitzois Apeh Lis Avos Chafbeis Oisius V'shoyrish Hahei Gevuros. And the source of these 5 Gevuros, which split up the Kol Pashut to come into Chafbeis Oisius, is something called Boitzina Dekar Doinisa, which is called the candle of darkness. I cannot provide you explanation on that. Shehi Gevura Ilah, de Atik Yoimin, which is a place all the way up there called Atik Yoimin, which is not only a place which is separate from this world, but is also the source of all this world. And that's where the Chamisha Gevuras come from. And that same place, believe it or not, is the Shoirish of the Chasodim, Shu Gam Kein Chesed de Atik Yoimin. Speak to Itchimeyer for more information. Ki yadu liyodechein, as is known for those that learn Kabbalah. Perak Hey. V'hine al ze amru Chazal. And based on this, we can start to understand what the Gemara says, the Medrash. B'tchila ola b'machshava livro yasa olam b'midas hadin. In the beginning, it says Hashem wanted to create the world through the powers of judgment, din, tzimtzum, Rosh she'eina olam miskayim, and Hashem saw that the world would no longer be able to survive if Hashem was running the world through strict judgment. Simple meaning behind that is, if the second somebody touched a light switch, God forbid on Shabbos, a lightning bolt would come out and zap the guy. It wouldn't be too good for the project called a world. So Hashem said that I'm going to be shotef boy midas harachamim. Hashem joined into it, bo is a very important word here, the qualities of rachamim. So what does this mean? Based on what we just said, can you have din, can you have tzimtzum without yud-kei vav-kei? In other words, can you hold back something and have a world? Can the story start with holding back? Or the story has to start with, I'm creating, but I have to hold back some of it.
Yeah.
So how could Hashem say, we're trying to be mature about our understanding of this chazal, how can we say that Hashem wanted to create the world through midas adin? What do you mean? That would be the starting point? How do you create by not doing something? Yes?
If you could paint a picture, you can't just throw all the colors on and then take them off. You gotta, put them on one at a time.
So that even as I'm putting on, I'm doing a chesed. I'm doing an act of giving, of chesed.
If you're choosing red over blue or whatever.
So I'm start, but I want to reveal. How can I start with conceal before reveal?
Well, you have the picture in mind of it.
Unless something already exists.
So, but Hashem is beyond all form and picture.
Yeah.
There's a will to give, but then that gift has to be held back.
But isn't it all of this exists in that already? It's just kind of delegating it so that we can comprehend what's going on up there.
But even the act of giving. Remember, this is very important. Hashem exists, it's all one, before there was a world. You got to think about that from time to time, every time you say Yud Kei Vav Kei, by the way. Which means this project called the world, before any of this existed, Hashem existed. If you just spend time with that, first of all, it's very ennobling. It brings you to a very, very powerful place of just the power of Hashem and His all-time existence. Then there was a choice to create a world. So how does He create? By first stopping. There has to be first the desire to even move outwards. Otherwise Hashem just is within Himself. So Hashem really, obviously He's creating with Yud Kei Vav Kei. But what Hashem wanted to do, okay, hear this well, Dahainu his galus elokus, meaning Hashem wanted to create the world, that the world would be created. This is like Chassidus, but slightly Kabbalah. So we're going to tread lightly. Hashem wanted to create the world where the existence of the world would be only through the kelim. Meaning, why does Hashem have kelim? To hold the light. Which means the purpose is the light. The purpose is the relationship with Hashem. The kelim are just ways to hold the light. So Hashem said, really, it would make sense to create the world just through the kelim, because how are they going to handle the undiluted light? How are they going to handle an ore with no kelim? So it makes sense to create the world just through Kalim, whatever ore you'll get from the Kalim. But you won't see undiluted light. Because how will the world stand with that? But then Hashem saw that if this is mamish so good. Hear this. If the world only experienced Hashem's light through the Kalim and not revealed ore without Kalim, the world would not be able to stand. The world would always need some level of undiluted light with no Kalim. And therefore Hashem, He was mishtatif, He added bo in midas adin, that even in the Kalim you'll be able to see light without the Kalim. Do you know how He does that? This is going to hopefully open up your eyes to a new worldview of life. His galus elakus al yedei tzadikim. Tzadikim, mamish, live in a world where there's no Kalim. That's what I said, like the Tzanzer Rebbe was like on fire, like learning Torah in his daughter. Oh my goodness! It's like, what's going on? The tzadikim, see, Meyer, they don't sleep, they don't have, they push it. When people saw certain tzaddikim, they used lashonis like this, that they're surah without a chaymer. They're like form without substance. Substance means like chaymer. Like, just like material, building material. Like we were lifting earlier today, some bags of cement. That's like chaymer. Just like form is like the concept of you could build the cement into something. So the tzaddik lives all neshama, the neshama is tzura, without chaymer. You barely can see him, his body. So the tzaddikim are one example of ore, basically without kalim. You know what else is an example of ore without kalim? Oisis v'moisim shabbatayra, miracles. Hashem gave us miracles because we couldn't live in a world where all we experience was the ore inside of kalim. We would need to have an undiluted experience of just ore sometimes. We need that.
There's still kalim there, it's just much less comparatively.
So that's what it means that Hashem put bo even in the kalim, or that's without kalim. And that's when we see miracles. You strip away the kalim, and you see Hashem, pure ore. And you have to start think about this in every single thing in your life. In your relationships, and you have moments where like, in a marriage, and all of a sudden like there's just so many kalim, and all of a sudden Hashem just sends an ore. And you see the other person, like as if to say, outside of kalim. So this is the deeper meaning of this chazal. We're going to take this back to understanding how Hashem is shining the light of Yud Kei Vav Kei, while at the same time concealing it, but at the same time giving us the undiluted light of Yud Kei Vav Kei through the tzaddikim and through the miracles of the Torah. Amen.
Amen.
Kol
I
Tuv.
have 3 quick questions. One, how would you translate the Chamisha?
Every time.